and welcome to Global Dialogue Plus from the Tennessee World Affairs Council. I'm Patrick Ryan. Today we have a terrific program talking with Carla Power, journalist and author. She has written for Time, Newsweek, Vogue, Glamour, the New York Times Magazine on Foreign Policy. Her work has earned her an Overseas Press Club Award and a Women in Media Award. Carla's last book, If the Oceans Were Ink, An Unlikely Friendship and a Journey to the Heart of the Quran, was a Pulitzer Prize finalist. And her new book is Home, Land, Security, Deradicalization and the Journey Back from Extremism. Welcome, Carla Power, to the Tennessee World Affairs Council, Global Dialogue Plus. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
And I'll mention that Carla is at home in Brighton in Britain, so we appreciate her at a later hour of the day joining us to talk about her book, her latest book, Home, Land, and Security. And we are featuring this as a What in the World quiz monthly prize. So if you don't take our quiz, please do, and you'll have a chance to win Carla's book. But Carla, let's talk about your journey into the examination of radicalism and the sources of radicalism. And you talk in your book about the panoply of societies where this is an issue, not just Islamist violence and extremism and militancy, but in Germany and the United States and the phenomenon, the rise of radicalism that we're seeing. But in the interest of time today, let's just peel back the onion a little bit on your views in both of your books, Understanding Islam and the West and Radicalism. Yeah, give us the overview of what you found.
Yeah, well, I started off wanting to sort of chip away at the idea that, you know, terrorists are all monsters, that they are all, because they are often behind acts that are violent and monstrous, that the people who go into this are monsters. Because that seems to me to be a kind of a non-starter in terms of understanding why militancy seems to be going up. I mean, since I think 2003, there were 35 in 2003, 2004, there were like 35,000 Islamist militants around the world. 15 years later, despite all our best efforts, there were 3 times that number. Deaths from terrorism over that same period, exploded 9 times. So what I wanted to see was, who are these people who are joining these groups, and can they be reformed? Can we think about this as something other than trying to lock them up at home or bomb them overseas? And it seemed to me really important to dig down into why, say, a young man from Birmingham would run off and answer. He was effectively groomed and wanted to help Syrian children, and went off and found himself fighting for the Islamic State and ultimately dying for it. I found out that there were almost as many different stories for reasons for people to go in as there are people joining these groups. A lot of them want something to do, to belong. A lot of them in some European countries feel really excluded from mainstream culture. They feel that prejudice is keeping them from getting ahead. So the idea of, say, a caliphate where everyone will be Muslim and they will all supposedly live in peace and build something new, just like it was in the Prophet's day, this golden age, that can sound very, very attractive if you're a guy in the suburbs of Paris or Brussels, who the minute you send in your CV it's tossed in the corner because it's got an Arab name on it. And then there are other people who are looking for adventure, who are bored with their humdrum lives. And, the Islamic State, as an anthropologist, I quote in the book, says was very much an equal opportunities thing. Is that their propaganda was sort of like, give me your tired, your huddled masses. If you have a criminal past, that we can use you. This is Scott Atran, not me, saying this. But if you're good with a firearm, we can use you. You want to study for medical school? Come on out. We'll give you for and so on. There was one family that I followed in Indonesia where a 16-year-old girl managed to convince, along with her uncle, 36 members of her extended family to go. And as I heard more and more of this story, and these were wealthy people, her dad was a top civil servant, and every family member had this different reason for going. From now, medical.
These were recruits to the Islamic State in fighting in Iraq and Syria.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was an auntie who wanted care for her son. There was an uncle who wanted business prospects. So I think this idea that these are all mad bombers is wrong, and we need to break it down. If we're ever going to really tackle this problem, we need to break it down and see the components that are drawing people into it.
So I'm going to tell people where they can get a more complete description of this conversation at the end. But in the remaining minute or two, give us just a brief snapshot of the deradicalization that you've seen in some societies. In Germany and Denmark, both of which seem to have really, really robust deradicalization programs, there is huge amounts of funding, a long-term commitment. I met a policeman in the city of Aarhus, whose program has been derided and complimented as the Hug a Terrorist program, where people coming back from the Islamic State would be helped by this police unit to find jobs, to find apartments, to find psychologists, and to basically move them back into mainstream. But there is the money there and the commitment there, so that they'll be working with people for 6 or 7 years. And so that kind of commitment is one thing that we want short-term. Our short-termism doesn't work with this, as far as I can tell, and that's the truth. Whether I talk to de-radicalizers in Pakistan or in Indonesia or in Denmark, and there are all sorts of other approaches. I often say a de-radicalization program is very much sort of like a mirror of the society that produces it. You've got everything from civics classes in Minnesota to a Pakistani boarding school where there's cricket and art classes. So there's a whole range of ways, but I think the most important thing is a commitment to a long-term and not a neat and easy process, but one Sure. that is multi-pronged, and you'll stay the distance with them. Well, thank you, Carla, for that. And this is just a brief taste of the conversation that I had with Carla for the World Affairs Councils of America Cover to Cover program, where we talked about both of her books. And you can find that podcast and recording on the World Affairs Councils with an S.org website. Again, we've been talking with Carla Power, author of Home, Land, Security. And the subtitle is Deradicalization and the Journey Back from Extremism. Carla, thank you so much for being with us at the Tennessee World Affairs Council Global Dialogue Plus episode.
Such a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And everybody, have a great day. Thank you very much for joining us.